to Real Men, Real Talk, live. Hi, good evening. Welcome back to the studio. Again, my name is Jay. I'm the host of the show. I'm excited to introduce my co-host this evening. We have Mr. Evis Love, the man of the land from down under. He calls Australia home. Welcome to the show this evening, Ev.
Thank you, brothers. Looking forward to diving in.
We have Mr. Jeff Fasano, who lives in Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome to the show this evening, Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Rothman. Glad to be here as usual.
All right. And of course, we have Josh Richer. He calls Southern California home today. Welcome to the show, Josh Richer.
Excited to share space with you guys on another beautiful Thursday night.
Well, I'll tell you what, Josh, I'm excited as we see some of our live streaming viewers jump in this evening. I want to welcome back Jillian Bowie coming in from overseas. It's been a long time since we have seen you on a live episode. Welcome back. Tracy Smith, of course, coming in from Vancouver. Debbie Andrews coming in from Texas. Carrie Crary joining us over from somewhere in North Scottsdale area. Of course, who else we got? Shannon Thompson joining us this evening. I'm obviously not going to be able to welcome all of our viewers. However, if you are joining us on a live stream coming in from YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, welcome tonight. We invite you to light us up. If you hear something you like or love, tap your love button on your monitor and light us up. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them down into your comments and they will stream with us. Angela Blakely joining us in from Chicago this evening. Good evening. Tracy Watson coming in from Southern California, Long Beach area. Welcome. And so this evening, we also are not live streaming, but we are streaming through Roku TV and Amazon Fire on delay. Should be on Your Health Network coming in tomorrow. In any event, gentlemen, tonight is episode 95. We are 5 episodes away from hitting that big number of 100. But tonight's episode is all about from boys to men. And this week, we're going to deep dive into what does that mean? We're going to invite Evis Love Heath to warm us up, kick us off tonight. And, well, Ev, before you jump in, I got a little mini-me here I want to introduce to you guys here. You guys may recognize this dude. I think this is what Ev looked like in his younger years when he, in fact, was a boy.
Ducky? No, Tommy. I'm getting out of here. I want to be little again. I don't want to be a big people anymore.
All right, Ev. I'm going to invite you to.
Oh, man.
I'm going to invite you to break that down. I hadn't heard that voice in many years since my kids were probably about 8 and 10 years old or so. What's this topic mean to you, Ev, from boys to men?
Well, there's little baby Beard at it again, chucking his little tantrum. But before we dive in tonight, my brothers and sisters, thank you, as always, from here in the land down under. And looking forward to diving in about boys to men tonight. And look, a little bit of a lighter side, I think, that I can really illustrate with that particular video opener. And, like we've got a lot of young boys running around in here in man costumes. Some people might know it as the Peter Pan syndrome. A lot of little boys aren't growing up. But where does this immaturity come from? Where does this lack of responsibility come from in one's life? From my personal journey, and we've shared our personal journeys so much on this show, but, for some of our brothers and sisters out there that may not have heard a little bit about my story, it was such a pivotal point from the early ages that I didn't really have the role model to follow, to mimic. I never really had a role model as the young fella, because as a young child, it was at a point in my life where I needed my parents the most, where I just didn't have them. So when we look up at those particular people, and tonight I'm going to really discuss the father figure, because I think it's so important. We're talking about boys to men here, my brothers and sisters. And when we think of not really having that father figure within a boy's life, we really look at him to be the role model. We really look at him to be the benchmark. We really look at him to be what some might even know as a North Star. So if we don't have that, like me, I put my hand up, brothers and sisters, within our life from those early ages, guess what? We make our own rules. And unfortunately, my rules, there were no rules. There were no boundaries. There were no values. I had no idea because I was never really shown them. But I'm not laying any responsibility of my behavior back in the day. I'm not saying to anyone else that we can blame not having that particular role model in our life, because we all do need to take responsibility and ownership within our own lives. What I'm talking about here is that I was actually shown a full color spectrum of what it is to be a man. I was shown the good and I was shown the bad. But from those two, light and dark side, we might know as, I was able to now make my own experience based on seeing both of those sides of the spectrum. So throughout into my adult years, I started to see certain behaviors that I only knew as a man that I would mimic, certain behaviors that become destructive. And like some of those rules that I had no idea that I was making up myself, I hurt people. Unfortunately, mostly I hurt myself. So as we dive in tonight, I really want to talk about why we might see a lot of boys running around here in men costume, why they really haven't grown up, what really does rites of passage have to do in the modern man today, in today's society. Now, how can we pivot and shift around some of these destructive behaviors? Because brothers and sisters, for this planet to really go forward, to really raise the vibration and the frequency of this planet, we need a strong, sacred masculine. We need a strong man to be able to hold that space for our feminine, to be able to really create the earth that we really want to see. So look, I'm looking forward to diving in tonight. I could keep going, but I want to, share the platform with one of you brothers to come right in.
Whew. Wow. I think we're good.
Yeah,
We're good?
hit end. Any questions?
Really? Wow. So what'd you hear that, Josh? What, you want to unwrap what Eva's just said?
There's so okay. Well, we're already doing it episode 2.
Yeah,
on this one.
boys. I like when you said boys running around in adult costumes.
Yeah.
man.
Wow. And the wake of destruction and hurt, and it's not our fault. God, yeah, Ev, there was so much there. What really jumped out for me was the, we often get in this cycle of blame and blaming our parents or our situation or situational things that happen to us. And I was thinking about that very thing this week leading up to the episode, and was that I was thinking about the moment that I transitioned into a man from that hurt boy that I was protecting with all that armor that Jeff talks about and all of that. And the moment it started to shift for me was the moment that I took ownership of my life and I stopped blaming the world. And it's an important dynamic to talk about, because when we blame the world for our pain, we then believe that the outer world is the only thing that can give us pleasure. And we've given all of our power away then. We can't be a man from that place. We can't stand on our 2 feet strong in our power when we're giving all our power away. So for me, the super pivotal shift for me was ownership of everything in my life, the good, the bad, the ugly, the drinking, the rehab, the whole bit. It was when I took ownership of all of that and said, okay, you know, where were my responsibilities in all of this, and how can I change that? And as I moved into this new space from the new me, what also was a really happy sort of accident was now my happiness I was in control of as well. I wasn't putting my happiness out in the world as well. I didn't need things outside of me to make me happy. And that's when everything changed huge.
Mm.
So that was my journey from a boy to a man.
Beautiful, brother.
Mm. Hmm.
What are you feeling, Mr. Fasano?
I'm hinged on the word responsibility.
Tell me more.
As adults, learning how to take responsibility for ourselves. As men, looking at taking responsibility from ourselves. And even just posing that question, can you take responsibility for yourself? That is the adult perspective. So many men, so many adults, quote unquote adults, are running around out there and letting their, little children run their life. And then it is the adult that knows how to take responsibility. That child, that little boy has no clue. Like Ev just said, there's no model, there's no clue, there's no responsibility whatsoever. So once we learn how to begin to take responsibility for our lives, we even entertain that question.
Yeah.
So many people out there don't really know how to take responsibility or even know what that means. Really don't even know what that means. Taking responsibility for their lives, taking responsibilities for the choices that they make, taking the responsibilities for the choices they have made, and then realizing that probably a good part of their life, it was that little boy, that little girl, that little child running their life. So we have to
But
learn.
I'm just curious, Jeff, if I may jump in real quick. When did you pivot, and what was what was that moment, if you recall, when you were ready to become a man?
I think it was when I stopped blaming mom and dad. When
Dude,
I
that was
got
like 2 weeks ago, wasn't it?
hey, there's a lot of different
Yeah,
levels to it.
Yeah.
I'm with you,
Yeah.
man.
I mean, you could
Yeah.
start at the 100 level to start to understand all of that. And then you got to just keep on climbing the ladder or moving deeper inside, because it's a lot of different levels. And it's, our path to self-mastery is just moving and peeling away layers and layers and layers of wounding and learning about it. So it's when I began that process of I could tell you where it started. It was when I was working. I was living in New York, and I was working with a gentleman, Robert Baker, and I've mentioned that name before. And he did a thing called parent contracts, and it was about beginning that process with working on my contract with dad, and then working on my contract with mom. That you all of a sudden really begin to see that mom and dad have their wounding, they have their shame, they do the best that they can, and what we do is we start to individuate from mom and dad, and then that's the beginning point. And the reason why I bring this up is because this is where it's got to start. This is where it really needs to start to become even conscious and aware that all you're doing is continuing the chain and continuing what mom and dad taught us. And like Ev just said, maybe they didn't teach us a thing, or maybe they only taught us what we knew and they were our models. So we have to consciously move into that, to see that, so then we can reparent ourselves and begin to take responsibility for ourselves in a whole new way.
I want to bring this up on the screen right now. Jillian Bowie says, as a woman, I got to see both men and boys it was the boys who both hurt me and attracted me until I transformed from a girl to a woman. I'm just curious, what stands out. Well, Ev, I want to ask you, what do you make of this here? What is she really saying? And from my perspective, it's really more about, is there a role that the feminine divine can play in helping us men kind of ascend or elevate to stepping out from being a boy to a man, or is that 100% our responsibility? How can the feminine divine potentially make a difference for us?
I think, particularly in the energy that we're currently in, brothers and sisters, what the divine feminine can really do for the masculine at the moment is simply hold the space. Show the support that you're behind the brother. This brother doesn't need fixing right now, and nor does the feminine. Our way around all of this, like we'll talk about last week, is really to process through these emotions and feelings that have been pretty much going on for generation to generation to generation of pain, anger, frustration, confusion. So there's just been such a big disconnection between both the masculine and the feminine energies. But when we're able to, like I sort of mentioned at the start, be able to process into some of these emotions and feelings, for me, I took myself through rites of passage, brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about rites of passage, as we know, or some people aren't aware out there, many cultures for thousands of years, they'd send their young brothers out on country. Might be called a vision quest, it might be called a discovery, personal discovery, whatever it may be. But much of that particular young boy's vision quest was about connection. It was about connection to his mum, to the boob, if you want to say. But it was also about the young fella being able to be in solitude. So why we're seeing so much mental health, so much anxiety problems in this world today, we simply can't be in that solitude. We can't go out on that vision by ourselves. We can't sit with our own thoughts. We can't sit with our emotions because it's too painful. And like I said at the start, this is causing those behaviors. It's causing that isolation, which causes the destructive behaviors. Look, it could be addictions. We've talked about addictions on many shows, whatever that may look like, drugs, alcohol, sex, entertainment, whatever it may be. It causes these disconnected personalities to a lot of brothers later on because they try and numb from the pain. We were never shown how to really process some of these emotions and feelings, sit with those things. So it causes these personalities of self-destruction, and that could look like I said, through the addictions, for the self-sabotaging. It could even look like some of these brothers that are overly driven. That was me too. Chase, constantly going after goal after goal. So we form these personalities really to escape, as we've talked about. And being able to, like I said, sit within these emotions and feelings is definitely the first step of working our way around this rite of passage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like what you said, Ev. I want to break it down from my perspective. For some men, and I can't speak for all, I'm going to speak for myself. For most of my adult life, it was almost as though I was two people within one, meaning I had the responsibility as a husband, as a father, as an employer, as an employee, as a friend, as a sibling, as a son. And because I hadn't faced my own inner demons from my younger years, I didn't know as a man how to process my emotions, how to feel safe to process my emotions in my own home. And so it was almost as though I had not dual personality, but on one hand, it's almost like Superman, he goes into the phone booth and he changes into his costume for his superpowers. Well, for me, um, I had this inner heavy burden of responsibility, yet not understanding why I had this empty feeling within, this feeling of loneliness and disconnect. And so, and with all the responsibility that I chose to embrace in my life, there were many times where I turned into that Clark Kent, except it wasn't a superpower. I was looking to escape. And whether when I was traveling for business on the road, out of the country, in the country, just as soon as I would leave my home as an adult, the younger part of myself, little JJ, um, wanted to be seen and wanted to be, um, just wanted to be. And I didn't realize that behind all of that, living that dual life, if I may refer to it as that, was that like you've described, I was just living in that state of blame, blaming people in my life that had harmed me or hurt me, and or that had impacted my life from my childhood up through my early 20s. And so for me, the pivot, the breaking point was when my life had unraveled, every aspect of it. And in those early days, back in 15, coming up on 7 years ago, I knew that I, I, I was at a time and I was out of answers. I couldn't continue to show up behaving as that responsible father and husband and employer. And then when nobody was looking, that little teenager showed up and made some really, really harmful, dangerous decisions to to feel better. And that's just me telling them myself, I don't have any secrets today because that was part of my life. That was how I showed up. I was a prisoner within my own mind, body, and soul. And I could tell you, for me, part of the pivot happened was when I stepped out of my 30-year marriage and eventually engaged in a new relationship. And in that relationship, it was the first time in my life I truly felt safe in the
Mm.
presence of a woman.
Yeah.
Not that I'm throwing my ex-wife under the rug, but the truth is that she also came to the relationship with her own luggage, her own heaviness. And so she wasn't able to, as we say in a spiritual community, hold space. She wasn't able to, um, I think, feel safe with me to even express
Mm.
what I was going through and know how to have the tools to be there for me as my partner. And so for me, that was a massive pivot when
Mm.
I met my partner today, Mary, who just in a beautiful way just listened. She didn't try to rescue me, save me, or take care of me in that
Mm.
regard. She just allowed me to open up
Mm.
and begin to purge all of all the pain
Mm.
and just honor me in that way. And that was really the beginning for me of growing up. I
Mm.
needed that space, and for me, therapists, it didn't happen in 21 years. I never met the therapist that I connected with at what I refer to as a soul level. And so, here we are. Here we are. Here I am. I'm no longer. I choose not to jump into the phone booth and change costumes anymore. I like I like how I show up today. It feels
Mm.
really good, feels safe, and it's loving for myself and for others.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
what do you make of that, Josh Richer?
Beautiful vulnerability, Jay. Thank you for sharing your heart
Mm.
and your truth.
Mm.
Um, Gosh, so much you said in there too. What jumped out to me was this, yeah, when I was in shame and blame, there's no growth there. There's no, yeah. You whisked me back to those years when it was all consuming. There's just there's no space within myself at that point, with my brain running patterns of shame and blame. I was just trying to hide from the world and desperately have them not discover me that was inside, that was hurting. And the amount of work we do in our lives to cover up that. I mean, we'll spend our entire day and entire relationships hiding that, and hiding from ourselves. It's beautiful when we can, taking ownership is tough. Admittedly, it's tough. You got to look at all the stuff you did, and that's not very pleasant. And when it includes hurting people, that super sucked for me too. And there was even more shame and guilt in that. But when we can then learn to love ourselves enough to forgive, and then if we can move from that forgiveness to honoring all parts of ourselves, even the one that, like I've always says, you can't have the dark without the light. And we have those parts in us that are awkward, weird, funny, crazy, goofy, sticky, messy, ugly. This is life. We have this. And when we can love all those parts, the shame and the fear and the hiding and the layers of that start to fall away as well. And what's left is this beautiful acceptance of self and all parts. And the guilt goes away, the shame goes away, the destruction. And now our mind is free and our hearts are free. And there's so much more time in the day and room for joy, instead of all of that shame and covering up.
Yeah, what I hear, Josh,
that was my experience.
Thank you for sharing that. I just want to take a moment here, acknowledge that what I'm receiving in our community right now is a common thread, and that common thread for many men and women is that we have to hit some type of rock bottom in life, to where the pain is so excruciating, and that basically Ron as well as Jillian have acknowledged that in this moment. Elaine as well, is that knowing you could be led to the water, but no one can force you to drink it. You have to want it more than, let's say, I want it for you. I had to be so desperate in so much physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual pain. For me to grow up, I had to finally surrender and just say, show me. I don't know. I don't know, and I don't want to profess to know all my answers anymore, because I was out of answers, and like many of us, out of time. And so I think for some, that's what it comes down to. I think that there are some men and women that don't necessarily need to hit that low of a rock bottom to get there.
I've
I admire
interviewed
those people.
all around the world, and I'm very curious about that exact same question, Jay, because I want to find the person who didn't, and I haven't.
And the thing is, you got to have a look at someone's perception of what their rock bottom is as well. You know, it could be something totally different from someone else's, for some of the trauma and abuse that some of us have gone through.
I think when we're in the process of it is when we hit a rock bottom, because we're doing the work. It's when we start to do the work is when we will move to that place of the shadow. And we have to be willing to go into that place. And we can call it rock bottom. What really comes to me is we're talking about the enlightened. What's really important for men out there who really don't even understand what we're talking about meaning, are you willing to do this work to get to a place where, as Jay said, in a relationship, to even understand what the term holding space means? I don't know why this is in my consciousness right now, but you've really, gentlemen, you really have to be willing to invest in yourself, to do the work for yourself, to uncover all of those parts of yourself that you have of covered up, that you have pacified, that you have avoided, and really, really want to say, I want to face myself. I want to uncover these parts of me, and I want to find out all of this about me. And many men just, it's incredible to me, because it was really interesting, Jay, when you began the show and you were talking, you were reeling off all of these people's names. It was all women. I was about to say, where are all the men out there?
I was going to say that too, Jeff. Yeah, man.
Where are all the men out there?
Yeah. Well,
You know what I'm
our
saying?
viewership is twice as many women as men.
Right. So,
Yeah.
and that's really indicative of how many men in this world, and the reason why we have undertaken this path with this show is to encourage men to start to take a peek at yourself and stop running to a place where you want to avoid the feelings, the emotions, and just live that toxic masculinity. It really has to come to the place, whether it's a rock bottom or when you're in a relationship that's not working, or you're blaming and shaming, and you're in a place where, like I was, I said, there's something missing. There's totally something missing. And then I was willing to undertake this path of really uncovering who all of this stuff inside of me that I've been avoiding. And I didn't even know I was avoiding it. I didn't even know I was suppressing and repressing things. I didn't even know I was running away from things. I was running away from relationships that simply are just a mirror. I didn't know any of it until I did it. I don't know why I did it, but it was probably, and that's the point. We have to encourage men that it's safe to do this, but you've got to invest in yourself enough to say, I want to shift and change and grow up, and not let the little boy run my life anymore, to take responsibility for myself, to merge the masculine and feminine energies within us, so I can become a more compassionate person outside of myself, not blame and shame, not be in that toxic masculinity where I can look at a woman and feel all of that. That's where I'm coming from, and that's what we're trying to do, to encourage men just to take a peek. Start to take a peek. The size of a
What
mustard
is it
seed.
that you're
All you
encouraging men? What do you want men to peek into? What are you suggesting?
open the cover to themselves.
Thank you.
Take a
And-
peek into yourself.
And what about for the brothers, man? That's just way too uncomfortable, because we know a lot of brothers out there that just won't put down the sword and reach out to someone that may have been through the same stuff, or is an actual mentor. What's some of the recommendations you can give those brothers, Jeff?
Watch Real Men Real Talk Live, number one. I mean, really, we are wonderful models. We all have opened that door to our soul, to our heart, to take a peek. Know that the most courageous thing that you can do is that. It's like releasing that armor, that hard ass masculine self that you're supposed to be strong and stand there with your sword ready to do battle, that that all of that is what you're really doing is trying to protect all of those parts of you that you've shamed and judged.
There you go. You know, it's interesting, Jeff. You mentioned about the women viewers versus men, and what I love about this program is that we're reaching men, but we're also reaching men in an indirect way. I believe that our women viewers, our friends in our community, our listeners, are the conduit. They're the portal. And from my perspective, I'm just excited. I'm thrilled. Last week, for those that may be picking up late or the first time, we had a record podcast. Last week's show, we had over 33,000 people that tuned in between Thursday and Sunday night. And so for me, that it's not from an ego perspective. It is truly from the perspective of we've been at this for over a year and change now, coming up on 95th episode. And with the purpose of this launch was to reach men and women to have these conversations, to dive in and have these sometimes hard conversations. Each one of us have had to, we haven't had to, we have chosen to face our truths, share some painful moments, laugh, cry. For Josh and I, who have parents that are still alive, at times it's uncomfortable. For us, it's uncomfortable for them. But through this process, what we're doing is we're healing. We are healing. We four right here are healing. Unknowingly, that wasn't the intention of this podcast. Wasn't for us. It was to share what we have learned, what we continue to learn, our highs, our lows, as we are navigating week after week through our own circumstances. I want to take a moment here. Jeff Fasano is right now, today, he launched a massive Kickstarter campaign for a project that is what I refer to as your passion project. It is a book, Americana Portrait Session. And it's a book of 20 years of capturing entertainers in Hollywood as well as in the music industry. And I don't even know why I brought this up right now, other than because I don't know if you would have gotten here if you hadn't been doing this work that you've been doing for many years. You know,
exactly. Thank you. Because, and that's why you brought it up, I think, is because what you're right. There's really nothing I could say. What you're saying is right on the money. If I hadn't done this work, which I started when I quit my job at 40 years old, because the work that I've been doing is, and what we talk about is all about self-empowerment, a healthy self-empowerment within us. And probably not, Jay. I mean, if I wasn't doing the work, I wouldn't have had the notion to stand in the power. And as I've been doing this now since the beginning of December, I'm finding that inner conflict within me of, oh, I just want to go back into my safe comfort zones and do this. And this is a challenging thing. Well, whether it works out or not, thank you so much, Jay, for seeing that.
Oh, yeah.
That has been, this project is more of me stepping into a greater level of self-empowerment and the power within myself to take on this task of producing something that's very important to me. And I'm learning that. What's really interesting, and I don't want to go on about this, but my father is coming up so much in this project within me.
Tell me more.
Mhm.
It is.
How's that?
It's been amazing, and I loved my father. He was an amazing man, and our fathers are the ones who show us our way in life, the purpose for life, to move forward in life, and I wasn't really modeled that very well, as Eva said at the beginning of the show. I had to do the inner work on my own to find this place in the world. Our father, the masculine energy, is the one who models our place in the world. The feminine energy is about our compassion within all of that, which is why it's so important to combine both. I've had to find my way on my own in many ways to find that inner power and to for my place in the world. I've done all of that, and Jay, thank you,
Yeah.
because this project is what it is tangibly, but what it's bringing up inside of me is more of those layers of moving into another level of self-empowerment and my purpose in life.
Well, if we bring it back to tonight's show topic, from boys to men,
Yeah.
there's no doubt that I have this knowing that this has been another level of you stepping into your manhood, if I may refer to it that way. Because the part of us that goes to self-doubt, goes to all the what ifs and all the reasons, all the roadblocks, all of that comes forward. And Jeff, what you have done, I mean, we've watched you as partners in this program since you decided to even try to create this book. The book is about, if I may just sum it up real quick, is you capturing stars in Hollywood and musicians that you photographed over the past 20 years. And it's a book acknowledging these individuals, but it's really less about them from my perspective and more about you. And I'm so proud of you, as your brother, as your friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, brother.
I know what it took. And so I put some skin in the game tonight. I signed up for your Kickstarter. I posted it on my personal page. And I know this, Jeff, is sometimes we have a vision of where we think we want to be, or a project that is a passion project. We've all been there. I know you've been there, Josh. I know you've been there, Ev. I've been there. And it sometimes things don't work out exactly the way we think they should, or the way we want them to. But even in this moment, in that moment, when that deadline comes for this Kickstarter in April, regardless of the outcome, you will not be the same man that you are today on March 3rd. You will be a different man. You will learn, you will grow, and a huge part of all of this is leaning into trust, leaning into faith, and just remaining with an open heart for infinite possibilities. And no matter what obstacles or detours that may strike in the next month or so, just remain open for infinite possibilities, and let's see where it goes.
Yeah, thank you. And it is. I didn't never, guys. I never. I mean, I'm my heart's opening, but thank you, Jay. Thank you for really seeing that, because I've been trying to find within me to express that, because that is what's coming up in all of this right now. Yeah, I mean, it really is activating a lot of that little boy inside of me, seeking dad. It's pretty amazing right now. That what I've been seeking through this, I keep on saying I have help, but what I'm seeking, and that's what I meant about my father coming up, Dad, help me through this. Dad, help me through this. He's not around anymore for me to even call, but it's seeking that because I don't have it. I never really had that model to do it. I've had to find it on my own. And Jay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for seeing that.
Yeah, I know. This is a massive step that you took. It takes courage, especially when we don't have guarantees. Again, it's very rare that we have guarantees.
Right.
But if we show up the way I used to show up, trying to control every outcome, coming from the ego space, not inviting God or the divine spirit source into the process. And even if it doesn't turn out exactly how you hope it does, it just means that there's another door. There's another way to get the project done. And so there's where trust comes in, and really leaning into trust, and backing off and trying to control the outcome. Ev, what do you think? What do you think's going on here right now, my friend?
Before we go to Ev, folks, this is why Jay put all of this together. That intuition, that is what I was actually been seeking these last 3 months. That man in the upper left corner, at least he's in my upper left corner, was intuitive enough to bring me to this safe place of saying, yes, that's what I've been looking for.
And it's in this safe container where we see each other fully, and where we honor each other fully, and we're not honoring each other for our achievements or what we've done or any labels. We're honoring each other for the journey, the people that we are, and the work that we're doing. And holding
I
this
think
space.
it's so appropriate, Josh, that we, in this moment, that tonight's episode is from boys to men.
Yeah.
Because this is probably, I don't know, Jeff, I don't want to speak for you, but probably the most courage it's taken you to launch this project. The only other project that was as substantial as this was when you chose to leave corporate America 20 years ago. This is another major step for you. And so
this is his life's work. This is culmination of 20 years of growth and courage and stepping into your power and your talent.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Thank you, Jay. Wow. You know, they always say a good therapist knows they're doing their job when you start getting pissed off at them. You know, right now I get it, but it's like, damn, Jay. Oh man. Talking about taking a chisel and cracking a little more through my armor.
That to me, what you said is the reward right there. For me, is in the work I do today, it's not, I don't want my clients to ever be pissed off. I want them just to crack wide open and feel the pain and feel the moment and feel whatever it is that's coming forward, because when we can feel it and we reveal it, we have a really good shot at healing it.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what this is all about, because that's what I had to do in order for me to make it to this moment in time. But I want to switch gears right here, Ev, and I want to put you in a hot seat right now, because you've been such a patient holding space for Jeff as we've navigated through this moment in time. What do you make about One of the questions in the promo was, do men feel disempowered or threatened by modern empowered women? What's your take on that? And have you had to navigate through your own insecurities in the dating scene, if you've dated what I refer to as an empowered woman? And how, from your perspective, how do we navigate through that as men?
You answered your question again, Jay. No, I personally haven't had to navigate it, man, but it all goes back to self-worth, doesn't it, brothers and sisters? And you know, like we've talked about the show all night, you know, this learning to really rise with grace, but also being able to fall. And if we didn't witness that as the young fella, we're talking about the boy here tonight, but young sisters as well, we didn't have that role model to see, that role model that we looked up, that we revered, that we looked at as the king or the queen within our lives, to actually see them rise, but be able to also witness them fall, then be able to pick themselves back up, then it really makes it hard for ourselves to be able to learn how to do that, brothers and sisters. So if you're feeling empowered by whether you're talking genders here, either way, then you've got to go and look at your self-talk. You've got to go and have a look at your self-worth, your value. You've got to go back to the drawing board. And I help a lot of people on that part of their journey, particularly right here, right now. You know, because when we stand back into those lower realms, as I call them, the lower waters, the emotions, when they're forming at those ages of around 2 to 4 years old, brothers and sisters, if you haven't done the work from back then that's what you're going to be bringing into your adulthood, man, to the manhood. That's why you're seeing a lot of boys running around in men costumes. They haven't sorted out their emotions. So if you didn't get that attention to give your self-worth, you may have to pay a little bit of attention to yourself. You see, we're going back to fear of judgment. We're going to have to check ourselves into the self-talk. Then we're going to have to light ourselves up with some of this self-trust, this compassion, and this acceptance that we're talking about here tonight. So when we were able to rise up into that heart space, drop down from here. This is too much work going on up here, brothers and sisters. By dropping down into the self-compass, then we're able to navigate on this hero's journey. We're able to go into the darkness. We're able to go out on country. We're able to go through the fall and be able to rise, whether it is as the boy or the girl, into this world. So we're not talking about being the king. We're not talking about being the queen here, brothers and sisters. We're talking about being the shadow and the light. And we're able to be accepting of that duality that we're living in, brothers and sisters. That's when you're living in balance. That's when you're living in harmony. That's when you're living in grace. So, man, yeah, brother, so much gratitude for you too, my man. Congratulations, Jeff.
I want to bring this up real quick. Katrina May, coming in from the Vancouver, Canada area, the west coast of Canada. She says, never mind you guys. How do the gals feel when they can't keep a guy? Who wants to respond to that one? How do you interpret that, Josh?
Go on, Josh.
What do you mean by keep a guy?
Really?
We don't. Well, Katrina, I know how deep and amazing and wonderful you are. And I know you're joking around and playing around. And I know you get this too. They're all just mirrors. Every relationship is just a mirror. And so I've learned so much in dating about myself. Probably more than I've learned about the other person. If you're open to seeing that mirror and getting curious around the things that come back. But I know you're lit and you
I'm
get
going to
it.
piggyback on you with what you just said, Josh, and without really going too deep into this, just a quick piggyback here. I would look at that as even if a relationship appeared to be the one, if a guy doesn't if a guy chooses to step out of the relationship with you, then I see it as they've done you a favor. Because
Mhm.
if you're talking about it, depending on the woman, of course, and where she's at in her own life journey. But if if you are present in your life and you're doing the work and you are um, on this journey in life, you're not just surviving, but you're looking to thrive, and you're doing the work.
Mm.
If if a if a man or a male is not able to see that, and there's not an energetic alignment, let him go. Let him go. There's where trusting the universe that there's something lurking, something around the corner. When I say lurking, I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that, just
Creepy way.
yeah, it sounds really creepy when I just said that, but it just comes down to, again, it's like Jeff trusting the universe with this project of his. It's like if if things don't work out between a man and a woman, it's because there's another plan. We just can't see it yet. And here's where we get to trust it. And here's where, for me, it's like when something doesn't work out, no matter what it is that we're talking about, I go right to trusting the process, trusting God.
Mm.
That there's even when my business kind of, if it takes a dip for a week and I'm quiet, I don't go into panic. I don't go into fear. That was when I was a boy. That was when I was 54 years and younger. Today I go, okay, here I am. What am I supposed to be doing this week? Oh, make it about me. Get busy. Do me work. Spend some time having play dates. Spend some time getting dirty with that little boy. Take some trails that push my emotional and mental psyche. Have some fun. Enjoy. Play.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
You bring up another great point, Jay, and here we are, like 3 minutes, and I'm gonna like drop a bomb. So I'm breaking down my film right now and going through all the processes of the brain, and an interesting thing came up is the importance of trust and surrender. And why is that something to talk about when we talk about healing and all of this? And why is it so pivotal and so important? It's so important because there is neuroplasticity, and we can rewire our brains, and we can do all this stuff. And I know that's a whole other different subject, but the importance is that we all know what it's like to live our whole lives from here. It's full of worry, stress, fear, doubt, shame, judgment, blame, running, hiding, hurting, and
Numbing.
that self-talk, numbing, lots and lots of numbing, and that self-talk that Ev spoke of. So where does trust and surrender play a part in healing all of that? In what it is we're letting go of our need to control the outcomes. We're trusting that the path will unfold. And whether that's trusting God or trusting the universe, what that does is it takes us out of here, and it creates stillness, which was the one thing that I was dying for during my lowest point. I just wanted peace. And so leaning into that, allowing life to unfold as it's going to unfold. People are going to come into my life as they need to, and I will come into theirs. We are going to ebb and flow on this journey together, helping each other, supporting each other, learning from each other. But by trusting that, I've now come out of here, and I'm more in my heart space. And I'm going to show up in life differently as well. So trust and surrender plays a huge role. It can't be overstated enough. And when we have talked about a lot of pivots tonight, all of us, that transition from a boy into a man. And another one I know that all of our huge pivots on that journey was leaning into trust and surrender too.
Hmm.
Huge.
Beautiful, brother.
Hmm.
On that note,
Yeah. On that note, we're at an hour. So I think this is a good moment for us to put a pretty bow in the show. It's gone quick tonight.
That's
Um,
it.
You know, I've had chills now for about 15 minutes since we kind of diversed and shared with you, Jeff, this moment in this meantime as you are navigating through a new moment in your time in your life of courage. Um, Ev, I'm going to invite you just to close us out with a quick prayer or a breath meditation of sorts.
all right, quick one, my brothers and sisters. If we all just close our eyes, take in a couple of big deep breaths in through your nose. Just hold for a couple of seconds, nice and easy, breathing out. On your next breath in, breathing in all the gifts, the lessons, sharing tonight. If we can really just take one thing from tonight's show, be able to let go of any tension, any worries, any of last year's, last decade's, yesterday's pains. Don't allow them ever again to be today's pain. On that note, my brothers and sisters, thanks for joining Real Men Real Talk Live.
Thank you, Ev. Viewers, thank you for joining us this evening on episode 95. If you found the show resonated with you, please, we invite you to share it out in your social media streaming, on your social media community pages. We love you guys. I love all of you. Have a beautiful weekend. Do some self-care. Take some time to have a play date with that little boy and that little girl within, but also know when it's time to show up and parent yourself and pivot from men to boys or from boys to men. Either way, it works. Love you guys.